Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. This is a very late match reaction from Spurs draw against West Ham on Tuesday night. I know this came out on Thursday morning, and I would have normally put it to come out on Wednesday morning, but I was on Tottenham away quite late last night, so I couldn't really record straight after that. So yeah, my thoughts on Tottenham's draw to West Ham. Now, I'm going to go over the post-match comments first, because I think this is relevant in this video. Moyes came out and said that teams know how Spurs are going to play. And this kind of encapsulated the game itself. West Ham sat back like they did when we played them at home, and they nullified our attack. Son again was poor. Johnson, I know he scored, and he was probably arguably our best player on the day. He was all right. Again, he's doing okay recently, but we just need to see it over like a longer period of time to make a proper snap judgment on whether this guy can actually do it or not. As people know, he's young still. Werner, I know he got the assist, but again, not for me. Maddison was nullified in something which I've very much noticed over the past games, maybe 5 or so games now. Teams are clattering into him like Paqueta did. And when that happens, after that, he kind of seems a bit scared or less inclined to try and get the ball because he knows he's going to get clattered. And I do think that's actually a reason why. And I'm not saying we have to protect him, but maybe he needs to be just a bit more braver. We did have this issue with Eriksen. I know someone spoke about this. I think Adrian spoke about this when the show was on with Tottenham Way, saying that Eriksen, again, he was shying through tackles. And that's something I actually had a criticism of all those years ago. And I think Maddison is kind of doing the same. He's just not aggressive enough in some ways. Maybe that's part of the issue. Bentancur was all right. Bissouma, again, I was far from impressed with his performance against West Ham. I'm not too sure what Ange 6 is supposed to do, but I hope it's really not that. And of course, the back four, Porro, Dogi, they weren't bad, but they weren't good either. They were kind of in the middle. Romero, he was okay, I guess. Van de Ven, obviously everyone arguably said he was our best player, but the fact that Van de Ven is arguably our best player kind of shows what kind of football we're playing. And you could say, oh, well, we're playing defensive football, which is why our defenders are our best players. But we're not. We're playing this high press, inverted fullbacks, inverted wingers, which they are inverted, as I've said many times on this channel. Invert everyone, and it just don't work. We're so narrow. Teams are hitting us on the break. There was a chance in the second half where the ball went over the top. Van de Ven unfortunately fell over, and I don't blame him for this because he saved us about 20 times yesterday anyway, and over the past few weeks. He's literally our greatest saviour, yeah. And the ball went over the top. Antonio had this chance, and he just scuffed it. Like, he didn't hit it very well. And Vicario, who wasn't really called into too much to do, but again, look at the statistics. We both had 4 shots on target. And you look at the number of passes Spurs made compared to West Ham. Spurs made twice as many passes as West Ham. So tell me what the problem is. The possession is not efficient. And I'm going to use the word efficiency on purpose because there's only way I can really push my point across about Ange. This football is not efficient football. We pass. And yes, sometimes it's nice to pass for a team, but now teams are clocking onto the way we play, so we need to stretch them. We need to do something different. Maybe change the formation. Maybe go 4-4-2. I know he won't, but maybe play more direct would be a helpful start. Kulusevski, when he came on, much to Twitter's reaction or X's reaction, again, was really poor. The substitutions, Richarlison was on way too late. I was one of the people who kind of argued we should play Richarlison because of his height, and I think in this sort of game against West Ham, you kind of need it. And well, like, what can you do? It wasn't good enough. And you could point to the quality, and whilst I take that in consideration, I think the style was the issue. The fact that one long ball does us is a massive problem. So one could argue, oh, let's sign 2 Van de Vens. So you have a right side of Van de Ven and a left side of Van de Ven. That's the only thing I can think of personally. Because I can't tell you go out and sign a better fullback because the fullback's playing inverted into midfield anyway. So how's that going to solve the problem unless you push the fullbacks back, which you won't do? and scraps this inverted shit. But he won't do that. We all know he won't do that. So then the other solution I thought in my head was, oh, let's sign another fast centre-half to play alongside Van de Ven. But then people will be telling me, you have to drop Romero. You shouldn't drop Romero, he's a vice-captain. Again, with Sonny, when the ball's not on the plate for him, he don't do anything in this system. And this, again, this is not me saying to sell Sonny, because I would keep him for another season or two as like a bench impact player, because I think that's where he's going to end up anyway. We need a number 9. I think Isak is a great shout. And Sonny, again, one instance where I won't blame him is that because of the style we play, we have to walk it in. There was the 2 chances, or 2 half, I never call them chances, 2 openings in that first half where I thought, this guy can rip it, like, have a shot. So either he's got not the confidence they can do that anymore, like he did 2-3 years ago under Jose, where he'd rip a shot, if you remember Arsenal at home, or he just get told not to shoot as much. The only goal I can remember we scored outside the box, if it was outside the box, was Porro against Burnley in the Cup, which shocked me that we actually took a shot from outside the box. But it seems like the only way we can attack is either play the balls across the box and hope someone's got to on the end of it. It's kind of old school in some ways, but yeah, we don't really play high balls. Or pass through them, and passing through them, a 10-man defense is not going to work. I'm sorry, it's not going to work. And some people, like I said, might point to the quality, but a name that's been branded about around the Spurs fan base and Spurs YouTubers is Jack Grealish. Now, I want to talk about him because he's very important. The club might target him because, of course, he's English as well. He's Maddison's teammate, so-and-so's teammate. Spurs were looking at him under Poch. It'd be very Spurs signing in some ways. But Jack Grealish will have the same issues as Kulusevski on the right. He was cut in. We're not signing the solution. If we're going to sign wingers, we need to sign wingers who take on a man for once. And Grealish, whilst some may argue he takes on a man, he doesn't really. He just cuts inside and just drives inside, which is what Son's doing on the left, which is what Werner's even doing on the left, which surprised me the most because I thought Werner would be the kind of type to go on the outside to cross it. But obviously he's been instructed not to. Kulusevski by default will always cut in, so let's forget him. Johnson, though, even though I could argue he could be the player who could do it as well on the right, to go on the outside and put across. Number one, his end product, despite his tap-ins, is very poor. And I say tap-ins on purpose because the goal yesterday, it was harder to miss. A lot like Son's goals as well this season. And then also his crossing, as we know, in the past 20 or so games, or more than that really, has been dead. Like, it's bad. So, yes, we do need extra quality, but the style itself needs to change. You either need to push the wingers actually play on the touchline. That some people argue that's apparently what Ange plays, but obviously we don't because they will cut in. Or you scrap this inverted fullbacks, which again he won't. So then if I'm saying he won't do these things, then the problem is actually Ange. And another solution I pushed forward was to play 2 Van de Vens at the back. I'm not saying we're going to sign another Van de Ven. There's no other Van de Ven. But what I'm implying is that you sign another fast centre-half and play them both. So at least not both hamstrings will go. And then that's your counter to like the low block, because you've got 2 people covering at least. Because for me, Romero doesn't even cover the last man. As we saw yesterday, he's not going to have the same recovery speed as Van de Ven. So it ain't going to work. And because we're essentially playing 2 to 3 at the back, if we're lucky, if Bissouma drops, then this is how we have so many issues. It's just like, when I see us, I'm just like, this is so predictable. As like I said, I'll go back to the beginning of this video. Moyes knows what we're going to do. So you either have to change the style in the sense of like how you're going to score the goals, either be more direct, or yeah, you can change the personnel, but we don't have many options there, let's be honest. So let's scrap that idea in the short term. In the long term, you can change the personnel, or you change the style in terms of the style in terms of like where the players are positioned, in terms of being like the inverted fullbacks, but he won't. That's how he's always played. So the simplest solution to me is buy better wingers, or these wingers that you have, you play them on their strongest foot. On like, this never happens nowadays. Play traditional wingers way, like play wingers in a traditional way, because that's the only way this solution I think fixes somewhat, because at least you have two wingers who actually cross it rather than always cutting in every time. And because let's face it, the inverted fullbacks do that anyway. And you see some positioning of like Werner and Johnson, they're not exactly on the touchline. I know people argue that they are, but they're not. As soon as they get it, they check in. And this is the same problem we're going to have with Grealish. If Grealish comes in, we're just going to have someone checking in. So you need to sign, like, obviously this is not going to happen, by the way, but this is a name I would think of. Someone like Doku, that sort of style wingers, that's kind of wingers we need. And of course, we need a number 9 because we sold Harry Kane, we didn't replace him. And someone's just, to me, in my eyes, a stopgap. And it kind of shows in terms of like the captaincy. He shouldn't be club captain. In terms of the fact he was moved into the middle because even Andrew realises what I realised, that the guy's lost his legs. I'm not saying he's completely slow now, but he doesn't have the same pace he had 2 years ago from what I can see. And he can't really play on the left because, again, he'll check in. And I know someone's got experience of checking in because he's apparently 2-footed. But he's not effective. It's just that this football is not effective. So for me, I basically said I don't believe this style will win us titles. I'm not against Ange in terms of like as a person. I'm sure he's a nice geezer, but this style of football in the Premier League, forget the titles. And I'm contradicting myself. Come on, you Spurs.